Hi everyone and welcome to Free Range Diva. You know, there are many things that can affect the growth and thickness of your hair, especially after menopause. Things like heredity, hormones, poor diet, illness, autoimmune diseases, medications, and chronic stress, which can go hand in hand along with everything else that I mentioned. So this video, I'm going to get real personal about my own hair loss and show you what that looks like, and as well as my strategy, my two-part strategy for growing my hair back. So let's get started. Let's start by talking about the phases of hair growth. Each follicle has its own growth cycle. It starts with the growth phase, which can last anywhere from 2 to 6 years. Then it goes into what's called its resting phase, and finally the die-off phase. During the resting phase, it no longer gets nutrition from the blood flow to the scalp. It just kind of hangs out, and then eventually it dies out. Now these growth phases are staggered throughout the follicles of your scalp so that you don't have, I would say about 90% of your hair is going to be in the growth phase, and then the other 10% is in the resting and die-off phase. That's why people say that you can lose maybe anywhere from 50 to 150 hairs per day. But when you are sick or under physical or emotional stress or receive a sudden shock or an injury, the body marshals its resources to take care of the immediate problem, and in so doing, it pushes more and more of the hair follicles into the resting phase. So that after an illness, for example, about 3 months after you're better, your hair might all fall out, or at least it might seem like a huge amount of hair falls out. And that's why it takes about 3 months for your hair to go from resting phase to the die-off phase. So 3 months later, and you may not even attribute it to the initial shock that put your hair into that phase to begin with, because it's 3 months down the road now, and often we think something else is going on. There's an interesting article published by The Atlantic. It's called "The Year America's Hair Fell Out." And it's about how after the COVID epidemic, more and more patients were presenting at their dermatologist's office with thinning hair. And that's the reason why. Now, the good news is, if you lose your hair because of a situation like that, a situational stressor of some sort, it will grow back. If you had COVID, and like I did in December of 2021, I noticed about 3 months afterwards that I always have been having thinning hair since menopause, but it got dramatically thinner, and it was very noticeable. Now, the issue that happened with me, and I spoke to my aunt who also had COVID, she had COVID in January, a month after I did, is that although the hair fell out, it has been slow to grow back, which is what brings us here today. So let's look at some of these reasons, at least in my case, that could account for this. Let's talk a minute about my personal heredity, and I'm speaking to my returning viewers who have a history of going through this with me, but if you're new and you don't want to hear about my history, then I'm going to leave a timestamp that will take you directly to what I'm doing to make a change. But for the rest of you who want to stick around, my mother tells a story about when she was a little girl, and her great-grandmother, my great-great-grandmother, who she called Mammy, in the evenings, she would sit down in the living room and take her hair down, and she would let my mother brush it out for her. My mother said that when she would take her hair down, it would reach the floor. So my great-great-grandmother was half Cherokee and half black and had a lot of hair. Now, I don't have any pictures of her, but I do have pictures of her daughters. Here you have pictures of my great-grandmother and her sister. And as you can see, these women had lots and lots of hair. And my mother, at the age of 91, has much more hair than I do. And my grandmother, when she passed, which she was in her late 70s, early 80s, she had a lot more hair than I do. And the one thing that they did that I don't do is they regularly oiled their scalp. When I was born, I was bald. And I stayed bald until I was almost 2 years old. My mother, very frustrated, she would tape a pink bow on the top of my bald head so that, because she got tired of people when they would see her, or see me out and about, they would tell her, oh, that I was such a cute little boy. So she, once my hair did start growing in, she regularly oiled my scalp as well with Posner's bergamot, which may be familiar to many of you. And then when I grew up and got out on my own, I stopped doing it. I just got out of the habit of doing it. So one of the things that I think that we can take from our ancestors, from the women who are in our history, is how they cared for their hair and how they passed that knowledge on to their children. Hair oiling was something, particularly in Black culture with Black women, but also I believe this is also true of white women during the 1800s, when washing the hair was not necessarily popular, but oiling the scalp and brushing that oil through the hair was very popular, especially with women who would grow their hair, and they wouldn't cut it. They would just grow it and grow it and grow it. I have been researching this video for 2 months at least while I was waiting for I ordered an oil, a particular kind of oil for my scalp, and it took 6 weeks for it to get here. So during that time, I went down the YouTube rabbit hole. I was watching every hair loss expert, hair care expert, to try and see if there were any through lines, particularly with people who had hair loss, but who had successfully grown their hair back, especially if they had an autoimmune like PCOS or alopecia, something like that, which, by the way, there is more occurrence of that with Black women than with white women, which I thought was very interesting. So there may be some sort of a genetic component, at least to the androgenic alopecia, which is the kind that results from a hormone imbalance. So anyway, one of the common through lines that I learned from all of this research is that regularly oiling the scalp with a nourishing hair oil can be really beneficial for keeping the scalp in good condition, keeping things like bacteria and fungus and other things that can impede the growth of the hair, keeping that away and under control, keeping your scalp very, very healthy. A lot of these scalp oils are recipes, DIY recipes, that have common ingredients in them, and I'm going to talk about those because the first part of my strategy for growing my hair back is using a nourishing oil with essential oils in it to really get the blood flow going and create a healthy scalp environment. The second part of my 2-part strategy is scalp massage. And I have a lot to say about regularly massaging your scalp. Might be the most important thing that you could do because blood flow is everything to your hair follicle. So before I get to my DIY scalp oil and my routine, I want to show you what we're dealing with. Now, my hair, I just washed it this morning. I also colored it so that you could see the roots, so you could see really closely any new growth that's coming in. The reason that I did that today is I'm doing some things internally to help this whole situation as well, which I will get to in part 2 of this video. Today we're just going to stick to topical stuff. But because of that, my hair that grows in is growing in darker. So this will help me to see exactly what kind of growth, what the growth will look like as it starts to grow in, how fast it's growing in, etc. I'm also making a date, marking the date on the calendar that today is the day that we're going to be tracking this. And so first I want to show you this area here. There's these tiny, tiny little hairs growing in. This I noticed a few weeks ago. There aren't a lot, but there are a few. So this already, things are starting to look better, at least around the edges. In my last Get Ready With Me, you saw my scalp. I have a decent amount of hair here in the top. Prior to getting sick with COVID, I was thinning. Most of my thinning was here and kind of around the edges and in this edge area. But now, as you can see, I'm just going to work my... There are bald spots, and they're pretty large. Here on the sides, it's a lot thinner. As we move to the back, this is really, really, you can just see I gathered up a lot of hair in my hand, or what should be a lot of hair, but actually is very little. And you can see the scalp here, especially if I part, you can see that it's thinning all over. It's not just one area, it's thin everywhere. Okay, so now you've seen it. So now you see what I've been dealing with. And I have to say, it's been hard to catch a glimpse of of the side of my head in a mirror and see my scalp. It's definitely did a number on my confidence. I'm just coming out of being in kind of a really sort of low-level funk because it didn't seem like it was going to ever get any better. But the reason that I am able to sit here and show you this and not burst into tears is because it can get better, and I'm going to get it better, and you're going to watch me do it. We're going to do it over the course of the next few months, because in May I have my 50-year high school reunion. I'm looking forward to going to it, and I'm either going to go with a decent amount of hair on my head, or I'm going to shave it all off and wear a wig. So let's start talking about the oils. So I got a recipe, but the oils that I am using as carrier oils are coconut oil, and this is the fractionated coconut oil that I got from Plant Therapy, and pumpkin seed oil. Some oils penetrate the hair shaft and some oils protect it, so they lock moisture in. Coconut oil actually penetrates the hair shaft itself. On the scalp, it is antifungal, antibacterial, and has anti-inflammatory properties as well. As far as the hair shaft, it penetrates the hair shaft, protecting it from protein loss. The other oil that I'm using is pumpkin seed oil. I'm adding pumpkin seed oil because its phytosterols can block the enzymes and hormones that can lead to hair loss. Hormonal hair loss is something that women after menopause we struggle with, because although we don't make a lot of testosterone normally, because we have less estrogen, possibly can lead to DHT. It's kind of controversial because some doctors and researchers feel that women don't make enough testosterone as it is to have any kind of impact, but I'm covering my bases with the pumpkin seed oil. Several studies have also been done using this internally, and although nothing conclusive has been reached yet, it does look very promising. And there's a very promising study, mouse study, that showed that pumpkin seed oil worked as well as finasteride on the hair follicle and promoted hair growth by blocking testosterone. So I'm not taking any chances. I'm putting this on my scalp. And in a part 2 of this video, I will talk about things I'm doing internally, but we're just going to stick with external topical stuff for this video. So those are my 2 carrier oils. And in a 1-ounce jar, I put about half and half. Here's a 1-ounce jar, and I put about half and half of those 2 oils. Now, the essential oils that I'm using are going to be rosemary, cedarwood, and lavender. And I will explain why. Rosemary, first of all. I got this rosemary 1/8 cineole from Plant Therapy. I will insert what this means because right now, senior moment, I'm blanking. But there is a reason why that 1/8 cineole kind of ups the power of your regular rosemary oil. So a quick check around the internet, and I found that the reason rosemary, everyone is so excited about rosemary oil, there was a big study done in 2015 with 100 participants. Half used rosemary essential oil, the other half used minoxidil. After 6 months, the subjects were examined by a team of dermatologists who determined that the rosemary group had less hair loss and more hair growth than the minoxidil group, and with much fewer side effects. So kind of everyone has jumped on the rosemary oil train, and that's why. Extensive reading also, I found cedarwood oil to be consistently mentioned. The reason is a 1998 double-blind study found that it increased hair growth by 44% in participants with alopecia. That's pretty impressive. And it worked best when it was added to a mixture of rosemary and lavender essential oils. It improves circulation and blood flow. It's also antibacterial and antifungal. So of course, number 3 is going to be lavender. And so lavender gets its recommendation from a mouse study where it was found to increase hair growth in mice. Lavender is antibacterial, it's antimicrobial, it gives you a nice healthy scalp. It can also calm inflammation, and again, works really well when it's combined with these other two essential oils. All 3 of those give you a nice healthy scalp environment. So I am using a recipe. I combined a recipe that I got from Dana Lavoie's blog, which I'll link, because it's a really good article that has it covers all the bases in terms of stress management, diet, products, that sort of thing. But I also combined her recipe with Plant Therapy's recipe, which is a little more intense. So starting with 1 ounce of carrier oil, you're going to add, Dana's recipe is 4 drops of rosemary, 4 drops of cedar, 4 drops of lavender. Plant Therapy has 10 drops of rosemary, 4 drops of cedar, and 4 drops of lavender. So I put about 6 drops of rosemary in here, kind of halfway between them both. And I can always increase it if I feel like my hair responds well to this, because when you're starting out, it's probably best to err on the side of being gentle to your scalp. You can do it the night before you're going to wash your hair, or like I do, I am putting it on immediately after I have washed my hair, and I'll leave it in and put it on one more time before I do wash my hair again. So twice a week for me, sometimes 3 times a week if my scalp feels kind of itchy. I started doing this about a week and a half ago. So far, so good. Both of these, the nice thing about this oil is that it's very lightweight, which is why I like it. You can kind of see that here. It's not, is it better this way? Yeah. It's not thick at all. It absorbs in quickly. It doesn't leave my hair greasy. And it's very kind of tingly and refreshing when you first put it on. Your scalp feels like it's alive, like something's happening. The second thing that I want to talk about is what I do after I put the oils in my scalp, and that is a scalp massage. And you're basically using your fingertips to manipulate the scalp so that you can feel it moving around a little bit, especially this area up in here, which tends to just kind of sit. It never gets any kind of activity. The more that I read about scalp massage, the more it seems like it could be the miracle treatment, because getting blood flow particularly nourishing blood that you have nourished by eating a really good diet and taking whatever supplements may be necessary to really support good health with good nutrition. That is key to nourishing that hair follicle, and it is not going to grow to its potential without that nourishment. So blood flow, blood flow, blood flow. And I try to do it every day. Sometimes I forget every other day, but I do it several times a week, usually in the evenings or late afternoons when I'm just relaxing. And of course, if I've oiled it, I will do the massage after the oiling. So let's see, what else do I need to tell you? Oh, as far as oiling my hair, I use coconut oil, and this is for two reasons. Coconut oil, I think I mentioned earlier, penetrates the hair shaft and really builds protein and nourishes the hair shaft itself. And several years ago, I was on a job filming a commercial, and one of the actresses I was working with had this gorgeous hair. So of course I got her off to the side and wanted to know, what her hair secrets were. And she said she puts coconut oil on her hair the night before she washes it. Her secret was coconut oil. Good enough for me. That's what I do. There are other oils that penetrate, and I'll make a list of oils that penetrate as opposed to oils that protect, that actually surround the hair shaft and keep water loss or moisture loss from happening. Back in my great ancestors' days, they used boar bristle brushes. And I had one, but I mean, decades ago I stopped using it. Instead went with a more rubbery type bristle brush. And recently I got to think about boar bristle brushes is that you can have them your whole life. They're never gonna break once you get one. They may be expensive to get one. Once you do, you'll have it forever. So many of you may already have them and have, toss them aside. Get them out and use this to, especially I like to use it first to detangle the ends when I'm detangling my hair, and to pull out any hairs that have been lost during the day. And then they can take that oil that you've used to massage your hair and really move it through all the way from here all the way down the hair shaft. And they're very, very gentle. I had forgotten how really nice these brushes are in terms of being gentle and not pulling your hair out. So this one's clean. I just washed it because I just washed my hair and it's a little bit damp, so I probably shouldn't have done that. But they are very, very good, a good tool that we can take from history that is still good and relevant today. When I detangle, I either finger detangle like this, or I use this wide tooth comb to detangle. Again, it's gentler on the hair and on the scalp. I tend to not pull out as many hairs, I have noticed. And before I finger detangle, I will apply a little bit of an oil to my ends, and I always use argan oil for that. Since I've been doing that, I do see less hairs coming out when I detangle my hair. When I wash, my first shampoo is always with this tea tree triple treat invigorating shampoo from Giovanni, and then my second cleanse shampoo is with the Inner Sense line, their shampoo followed up by their deep conditioner and then their leave-in spray. As if this video hasn't been long enough, I did want to give a shout out to the oil that my mother uses to oil her scalp. That's this Heal and Grow from Makeba. This is a little bit heavier, which is why I have not tried this yet, but I am going to try this at some point because, again, like I said, my she's got plenty of hair on her head, way more than me. Oh, and the only other thing that I forgot to mention is that I don't wear my hair down anymore. I haven't worn it down in about 2 months. I will put it up in a scrunchie, I will pin it back, I will do something that is protective during the daytime. So usually I'll just put it up in a scrunchie like that to protect it, and then put another scarf on or something, but I do not wear it down, and I won't be wearing it down anymore for at least the next few months. I get my essential oils from Plant Therapy, and I'll put a link to it below, down there to it below, because not only can you buy separate essential oils like I did, they also have a hair loss blend of oils that include rosemary, clary sage, which is another of those big important oils that actually is kind of interchangeable with cedarwood. They tend to do the same things. It has cedarwood in it. It has lavender and a couple of other essential oils in it. So it has the big three, big four. Peppermint is another one that also can do a lot towards stimulating blood flow. There's another essential oil that you may or may not want to try. Anyway, they're very high quality, reasonable price. You know what you're going to get. So if you'd like to do this with me, I'm going to check in with you in a couple of weeks, maybe a month, and let you know how this is going. I'm also going to do a follow-up video soon to talk to you about my internal adjustments that I've made, supplements, things like that. So stay tuned for that. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. I would love to to get to know you and have you come back and tell me all about your hair stories, because we've all got them, and hopefully they're going to be more positive than negative as we figure this out, how to approach hair thinning in menopause, hair loss in menopause, and just hair loss in women in general. All right, everybody, until I see you in my next video, I'm going to wish you a wonderful day, a wonderful week. Take good care of yourselves, and I will talk to you again very, very soon. Bye.